as entrepreneurs, we all want to make a major difference out there. We want to reach out and really get our message out to individuals that we can help make a difference. Well, I have a superstar, and I do mean a superstar here with me today. It is an unbelievable talent. He was one of the earliest pioneers, if not the pioneer. In 1965, he started a company, early 60s. Now, remember, the internet wasn't there. He started in the political direct mail ideology, just really a major player. And I'm going to let him share some of the things that he's done. But he is today one of the largest players in this area. So many lessons. I mean, think of how many lessons learned over that period. In a typical year, 150 million postal pieces, not emails. Some of you do emails, but postal pieces, and certainly similar in the email. He's a very young 82, and he would make many of us look like slackers. He puts 12 to 14 hours in regularly, and one of the most impressive things, I think, over his career, being one of the top marketing people over the last 50 plus years, is that he commits to a couple hours of studying marketing each and every day. I mean, this is an amazing individual. Stay tuned, because the insights that you're going to see when you meet Richard are going to be unbelievable. I'm John Bowen. We're at AES Nation, all about accelerating your entrepreneurial success, and we're going to do that today.
Ordinary success? No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep, think bold, drive hard. Watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AESNation.com.
Richard Viguerie, I am so excited to have you with us today. I've had the privilege of meeting you at Joe Polish's mastermind group a couple of times. We spent a little bit more time together at our last meeting in Phoenix, and you made a presentation. I was just blown away, not only with the history, but the insights that you gave. I mean, I think there were 67 very successful entrepreneurs, and there wasn't a person not writing down everything you said. So I want to share you with our audience here at AES Nation. So thank you, Richard, for joining us.
Great to be with you, John. I've been looking forward to this time together with you.
Well, and Richard, what I'd love to do, I mean, you have such a rich history, and we're not going to dive too much in the political side, but you and I share a lot of the same political beliefs, and but I mean, it's just no matter what side politically you are on or what message you want to get out, you are unbelievably effective at getting it out, and I always joke about it. It's not, we don't usually wake up at age 5 and say we're gonna change the world in direct mail and get our message out. How did this all come about?
John, when I'm a kid, I'm just consumed with politics. Kids in the neighborhood shooting cops and robbers. I don't tell anybody, but I'm not shooting the robbers. I'm shooting communists, because I came into this world knowing them's as bad people. So anyway, I'm just consumed with politics. In my mid-20s, I get an opportunity to run a conservative youth organization that had just been founded a few months earlier on Bill Buckley's family estate in Sharon, Connecticut. So I go to New York City, and I know nothing about marketing, and I run the organization for about a year and a half, doing everything, but I just fell in love with direct mail. And after a year and a half, I asked to be relieved of all duties except direct mail. I wanted to focus on that. I did that for another year and a half, and by now it's December of 1964, and I felt I knew everything there was to know about marketing, and so I was going to leave and start my own company, business, and by then I had a wife and 2 babies. Of course, I knew nothing about marketing. I knew less than 1% of what I know now, but I thought I knew a lot more than I did. But the one thing I knew I didn't have and I needed, and that was names and addresses. I needed customers, people to write to. And in 1964, I discovered that if you were running for president, you had to file all of your $50 plus donors with the clerk of the House of Representatives. So I went down there in '64, found Goldwater's stack of donors. Started copying, didn't make a lot of progress after a couple of days, so I hired 6 women to do that. And after maybe 6 weeks, I had 12,500 names, 12,500, and that allowed me have the courage to quit a good job and hang out my shingle. And I was the pioneer. No one in America, no one in the world had ever done political direct mail, ideological direct mail before that. By the end of that first year, I had 100,000 donors, and within a few years, I was up to 1 million. Now we have 10 million donors, and that's the lifeblood of our organization. Between that and our team here, our employees, it makes all the difference in the world. So anyway, we're still, as I said earlier, the largest. We have 75 employees, most of them world-class marketers, and I charge hell every morning with a bucket of water, and it didn't happen yesterday, John, but I promise you today, before the sun sets, I will save Western civilization.
No, I really love that. I want to go all the way back, though, to that first 12,500, Richard, where you're going ahead and you're going, and I graduated in the mid-'70s college, and I can still remember punch cards and big mainframes and so on. What were you using to get that 12,500, then the 100,000 in those days to kind of manage that?
To show you how what a dinosaur I was, troglodyte, is that when I got to 12,500, I gave them to a friend of mine who was in the computer business. He was moonlighting at a Catholic charity. They let him use the equipment after hours, So anyway, I gave him 12,500 names. He brought them back on mag tape maybe a few weeks later, and we sat down, and I sat down literally, and I unrolled about 20, 30 feet of mag tape, and I looked at him and I said, "Tom, where's my names?" I said, "What do you mean? There's no holes in the tape." I expected to see tape. I'd never seen a magnetic tape before. And then in 66, 67, the post office starts talking about going with zip codes. And we all used metal plates in those, scriptomatic metal plates. And so we had all these 12,500 names on metal plates as well as the mag tapes. And I thought it was going to destroy the direct mail business going to zip codes. My gosh, I got to get rid of all my 100,000 metal plates here. Anyway.
Well, it's one of the things I wanted to bring that up, because sometimes we as entrepreneurs in today's world think it's hard. Okay, we have a few more tools than you had when you were first getting started, and I know you're using all the tools now, and that's one of the things I love about having the opportunity to visit with you, Richard, and to really get to know you better is you have just continued to grow and really make a huge impact all along the way. And I want to go to some of the lessons that you shared at Joe's meeting and share it with our audience, and that have made you so successful in making a difference, creating value. And the very first thing you shared was about always having mentors. And how has that influenced your life, and how would you recommend that your fellow entrepreneurs use that strategy?
I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have accomplished a fraction of what I have achieved, John. And by the way, at age 82, I've learned this from Dan Sullivan. I am as convinced as we are sitting here talking to each other that I've got a bigger front than a back. So whatever I've done in the past is going to be dwarfed by what I do in the future. But from the day that I went to New York City, my boss, Marvin Liedman, was a giant in fundraising. He didn't do direct mail fundraising like we do now, but he was doing fundraising, high dollar. And he was my first mentor. When I started, within months after starting my company in 1965, I spent a whole week with a man named Ed Mayer. He was the primary teacher for the Direct Marketing Association in those days, and there was a dozen of us or so for all week long, and he became my mentor. Once a month for the next 15 years, he came to our office and coached me and my employees. After he died, a man named Dick Benson called and said, "Your guru has just died. Can I be your new guru?" And my reply was, "You got the job." So those three giants allowed me to really have an unfair advantage, quite frankly, over the competition, because I was being taught by the best of the best. And in the last 15 years, I've had Dan Sullivan for my coach. So I encourage everybody who's in the entrepreneurial business, whether you're just starting or you've been in it for a long while, get a mentor. We all need mentors. So we all need coaches. And by the way, if you can't afford to maybe have a high-level coach, there are many good coaching organizations. They're national, they're local, and I joined these organizations 30, 40 years ago because I knew that I didn't know how to run an organization. I didn't go to college, as most of these entrepreneurs are in the same boat. We didn't go to college to learn how to run an organization, how to start one, and how to manage, hire, fire, etc. So I knew I had a weakness in that area. So I surrounded myself with people who could help me in that area, and that's so important. One last thing in that area, John, is the importance of accountability. I heard a giant mentor of many people in coaching business years ago say the number one reason people are failing is because there's a lack of accountability. And I was guilty of that. I'd get up in the morning and I see a rabbit run down here and say, oh, I'll chase that one. 10 o'clock, here's another one. 11:30, I'll go off over here. But when you've got a real board of directors and people really holding you accountable, you're going to be much more disciplined. It won't be maybe sometimes as much fun. They'll hold you accountable, but you'll achieve a great deal more if you have accountability.
You know, I look at the biggest successes I've had along the way. I can think of a few mentors who just really, they had walked the path before me and they could shortcut. They let me still find some mistakes along the way, but just that little bit of coaching just made a huge difference. And the real board of directors, one of the challenges, what we all like as entrepreneurs is freedom. And freedom from accountability sounds better, whether it's rabbit holes or shiny new things. As you have more and more success, there's more of those rabbits running around. And in every study we have of entrepreneurship, I mean, that focus, that massive deliberate action on a focused area, which is so counter to what so many of us as entrepreneurs, our natural thing is to go start something else. Richard, give an example. I mean, when what would for an entrepreneur who hasn't had a board of directors, I mean, that's a kind of a scary thing. You've got this freedom, you can do whatever you want type, and now all of a sudden you're going to go ahead and have somebody who, certainly understands the business a bit, but not as much as you, holding you accountable. Why do you feel so strongly about that?
John, it's a great question and observation on your part. And as an entrepreneur, you want freedom. And I had the freedom to, do a lot of things as I'm building my company, including waste a lot of money, waste a lot of time, and nothing gives you more freedom than profit. And I hired a company early in my career when I'm 10 years old, been in business 10 years, to do a study of our company. And they did for 4 or 5 months, charged me a lot of money, came back and said, here's our recommendation. You resign as president, CEO of the company, and become chief creative person. You're the chief copywriter, etc. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. I'm the president. This is my company, and I'm not going to turn it over to somebody else. They were dead right. About 12 years ago, I did turn the company over to a wonderful lady who came to me as a kid right out of William and Mary and stayed with me a while and been involved in our company at different times. But anyway, I made her the president and CEO about 12 years ago. Changed my life for the better. I've got so much more freedom now. I'm able to focus on my unique ability, and she focuses on her unique ability, and life is so much better now that I've got, somebody who's I can turn the company over to, and I can focus on my unique ability, and that just has changed my life for the better.
I could feel the entrepreneurs. As you're listening to this, I know I'm going, geez, a formal board. And I have done that many times. And each time I've done it, I have more success. So I don't know why we all fight those things. But the freedom that being very profitable has, and the ability to replace yourself and have the business run even better. If you can't feel good doing that, I mean, this is where it's really amazing. Now, Richard, one of the things that you talked about at Joe's was this concept of 4 horsemen that are really guiding you along the way. And why don't we start out with the first one that you talked about, and we'll go through one at a time. But This whole concept of positioning, What do you mean by that? Why is that so important to you as that horseman that really has helped propel you through all your success?
Yeah, these four horsemen that I've developed, quite frankly, they're not really original with me. Through studying many people, particularly Al Reese and Jack Trout. And Al Reese, they used to write together, now they write separately. Al Reese writes with his daughter Laura. And much of what I've learned from them, but I've put it in this sequence of the four horsemen, combining what they've taught as well as others. And I am so convinced that these four things are the secret to success in life. I say that you've got to get these four things right, John. And if you do, your life is downhill, the wind to your back. Get them wrong, you're going uphill, the wind in your face, and you're not going to succeed. All right. Position is nothing more than a hold, H-O-L-E, in the marketplace. It's that's what you decide, quite frankly, privately. What hole in the marketplace do you want to occupy? And I like to use an example of, say, Fox Television. Now, doesn't matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. You can understand this concept here. Rupert Murdoch, 20 years ago, when he wants to start a cable television network, doesn't try to duplicate what his competitors are going to be doing, CBS, ABC, NBC, CNN. He says there's a hole in the marketplace. Nobody's serving the right of center community in America for news. Life got pretty easy, at that point when he said there's a whole market of 50% of Americans not being served. So he said that's the market we'll serve. And then that's what he did privately. Then this number two is differentiation. And differentiation is what you do publicly. So how does he differentiate from CNN, CBS, ABC, etc.? And he did that by hiring people like Bill O'Reilly, Megyn Kelly, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck for a while, then Fox and Friends. So he clearly has a product that differentiates from his competitors. Third is USP, which I think most of your audience will know is unique selling proposition / benefit. And that's kind of easy. When you listen to Fox, you get news and information that you don't get anywhere else. So if you're a conservative, if you're right of center politically, you can see that you're going to get information you're not going to get on ABC, NBC, etc. Fourth is brand. And brand, John, is the ball game. It's everything. It's a combination of these other three. It's a combination of your position, differentiation, and your benefit. But it's what makes you singular, what makes you unique. In the words of Seth Godin, it's what makes you a purple cow. Okay, I live out in the country. Regularly pass fields of 40 brown cows on one side, 50 black and white ones on the other side. But if one of those cows, and they all look alike, can't tell one from the other. But if one is a purple cow, that stands out. So all of our job in life is to be a purple cow, not only for our business, but for us as individuals. I speak to a lot of young people, and I say, most of you are single. You're looking for a spouse. A lot of competition for that pretty young girl's hand out there, So how do you separate yourself? How do you distinguish yourself from all that serious competition? And so it's just important to know this in life. Position, differentiation, USP / benefit, and then brand. John, most products today are not sold. They are bought. I like to shop. I'm one of these unusual men that likes to go to the supermarket. And I go to Wegmans on a regular basis, usually on a Thursday afternoon, Friday. And there's 40,000 products maybe in that store. Not one salesperson, not one. People that check me out and take my money, but nobody's selling. So the selling was done before you walked into the store. A couple of weeks ago, I bought a new car, new for me at least. Nobody sold me that car. I knew what I wanted. And I went to the dealer that had the car that I wanted, and I just had to negotiate price, and we were done there. So brand is the ball game, and you've got to be branded. And if you're not branded, life is going to be very, very difficult for you.
Yeah, all four are important, but I want to go to your last point that I think is critical. What's changed in with the kind of the speed of marketing and all the information on the internet, it facilitates. So when you go, the amount of research you can do today, for instance, buying your car that you just bought, before you even go there, wherever it is, has just changed dramatically. And I think this is something where these four horsemen are so important to us, and we all are aware of them, but executing is a whole different thing because today, whether you're in a B2B, a business to business or business to consumer situation, people are gathering information, and they in turn are pretty far along on their decision making. Where in the old days, we'd call somebody, we'd kind of talk with them and think about it, whether it was a car or whether it was a major piece of equipment or consulting service. We've now gone all the way down. And yeah, matter of fact, I'm looking at whether I should get solar or not before the tax credits go and all that, which is really hard as a libertarian going and taking advantage of this. But we'll stop there. But I did, the amount of research you do before you even talk with anybody anymore is so far ahead. Richard, how do you see, the kind of, you've used this, and one of the things that I was amazed, how prepared you were for, I've seen you present twice now, and how prepared you were for that. Before we turned on the camera, you and I talked about what we talk about today. I think I've done, probably close to 200 of these interviews. You may win the award for the most prepared. And, what's this? You always, this is something you've done all your life, and it's preparing a written plan, and how do you do that, and then how has that served you, and what would you recommend to your fellow entrepreneurs?
Well, it's a good lead into another very important four-part project here. But let me just make one more comment on brand. You do not build a brand, quite frankly, with advertising. That's a common mistake that advertisers make. They go out and spend a lot of time and money, resources on advertising. You build a brand with buzz. You protect your brand with advertising. Once you've got it established to protect yourself from competition, you do advertising. I am very well known in my area politically, marketing, etc. We've got a well-established brand. I've yet to take out the first ad advertising myself. I've been the subject of thousands of news stories, done thousands of radio, television stories, articles, etc., shows, and so that's how you build it, by buzz, and then you protect it with advertising. That's very, very important. In terms of being prepared, as I said earlier, I don't do much of anything in life without a four-part plan. Used to, in the late 70s, early 80s, a lot of us conservatives in Washington, D.C. area and around the country would get together, 20, 25 of us, for a long weekend. We'd go plot and plan, strategize, and we'd come up with problem X. And it was a young congressman from Georgia in the late 70s, Newt Gingrich. He'd go to the blackboard. We didn't have whiteboards in those days. And he'd write 4 words on there. An hour later, we'd filled in these 4 words, and we saw a path clearly forward. So before I do your interview, before I speak anywhere, I spoke Saturday, I spoke again this past Monday, I always do a 4-part plan. And the 4-part plan is vision, goal, strategy, and then tactics/project. What's my vision for this broadcast here? What's my goals, what's my strategy, and then what's my tactics, projects, etc. there. And so if you break any part, any plan, any project down in those 4 parts, it makes the going so much easier. When I'm doing a book, I'll do a 4-part plan. Who am I going to get to help me do the research, who help me do the writing, do this or that. Then once I've written the plan, then I'd have another plan to market the book. So you can divide most any project in life into those 4 parts: vision, goal, strategy, and tactics. And it just makes life so much more, not only easier, more likely to be successful.
Well, I think so often, it's kind of what we were talking about, Richard. You go to the rabbit hole, you're chasing things, and when you don't take the time to step back and get clear on what's the vision that you're working toward, and specifically what the goal is, and you can say yes to a lot of things that you shouldn't say yes to, and get yourself really in trouble. And
oh yeah.
And
let me just give you an example, John. I did a broadcast like this last week, a couple of hundred people in development, fundraising, marketing on the call. And so I said, okay, what are the things that I want to come out of here? One of them, and my goals was, maybe pick up one or two new employees, maybe one or two new clients, okay? And then I want to reinforce my brand. These are all people who are in my business. Many of them are my competitors. So I had a plan to reinforce my brand, to stress this, stress that. And it makes the going so much easier if you come well prepared.
Yeah, it really does. I do an awful lot of presentations too, Richard. And one of the things that, when you get really clear what it is you want to accomplish, the odds of accomplishing that go up dramatically. It's kind of a ridiculous understatement.
John, let me one point I forgot to make on this plan. It was so important. The number one benefit of writing a plan is not working the plan. That's important, but that's secondary. The number one benefit is writing the plan. Because as you write the plan, it clarifies your thinking. It crystallizes your thinking. You thought you wanted to go over here, but you say, no, I think I need to go over here, and more of this, less of that. And the exercise of writing the plan is hugely important. And it doesn't take long, in an hour. A young person who's starting off in their life, do a plan for your life. Lots of studies have been shown over the years that people who have a written plan for their life will accomplish far more than people who don't have a written plan. And by the way, several things. It's permissible to change regularly if you want to change, modify it, whatever. Also share it with other people. Let's say that you've got a goal of losing 50 pounds in the next 6 months, and you share that with all your friends. You're at dinner one night, all of a sudden you've got pie a la mode in front of you there, and your friends say, hey, Richard, what about this plan here? So share your plan with others. And Bill Clinton, when he's 16 years old, is telling everybody he's going to be president of the United States. His girlfriend at Yale, Hillary Rodham, introduces him by saying, meet Bill Clinton, my boyfriend, he's going to be president of the United States. And after a while, people buy into it, and they want to help you. And so write the plan, share it with
the
others.
whole planning process is just so powerful. Richard, one of the things, you've written books. You are a big believer in the power of books. Let me go to the next segment, which is the book of the day. And you've got, a lot of times I'll ask people to just share one book. And you have trouble with one book. You have a whole different way of doing it. And why don't you share that, and then we'll share what you're doing with our audience.
Yeah, I have a bibliography, which I'll be glad to share with your audience, that has, I think, the most important marketing books. There's probably a few that I don't have on here, but and I tell my team members here, these books that I have here, 15 or so, you don't just read those books, you memorize them, because they're the giants. And most people just read one or two books a week, or two or three a month, whatever, and that's okay. But I don't think it's near as helpful if you can identify the classics and just drill down deep and memorize them almost. If you're going to be a minister, a preacher, pastor, you're not going to read the Bible once. You're going to go through it over and over and over until it really is part of you. And I believe in the same way with books. But it's also important for these entrepreneurs listening to us not only to study marketing, but study business books as well. Because I said earlier, most of us didn't go to school to learn to run a business. So we need to study marketing and business. One of the best business books that I've read recently is by Peter Thiel, a fellow libertarian, John, and called 0 to 1. It's a powerful book, a small book. You can read it fairly quickly. It's got a powerful message in it. It talks about the importance of having a legal monopoly. And when you have a legal monopoly, you're not been commoditized. And it just is a killer to be commoditized and be driven down to the lowest common denominator. Great progress is made by companies like Microsoft and Apple and others, Google, Amazon. And they have monopolies for all intents and purposes, at least for some period of years. They make heavy profits, and then they can go out and do all kinds of research and development and take us into new paths that they couldn't be have taken us if they had been commoditized and had to sell for the lowest common denominator price.
I'm going to put it up on the screen. And Peter is, not only is he a good author in this book, but he is one of the most successful entrepreneurs here in Silicon Valley, and definitely has some insights to share. They're going to make a difference. It's written for startups, but it's really for all businesses.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would recommend it strongly. Let me go to the next segment, which is resources. And Richard, what I'd like to do, I'm going to pull up your website, AmericanTarget.com, and let me flash that on the screen. It's got some pictures of you with, I can relate to this a lot, with more hair along the way. And I've got some early pictures, and I did have hair at one time too. But I read the history, and there's so much things, but tell us a little bit about your business now, because I know I'm working with you to try to figure out how best to use your services. How can other entrepreneurs reach out to your company and take advantage of all this wisdom and connections and data that you have?
Well, the main thing, I think I've covered a lot of the highlights here. Read, study, get mentors, have accountability.
No, I'm talking about how they can actually talk with you for your company versus,
all right.
You're helping them build great businesses. Now we gotta execute on a few things, and one of the big challenges that many of us have is that we've kind of refined. We've nailed our client experience. It's working really well. We've built up our business. We've done some of the marketing things you're saying, and now we're ready to expand it a bit. And a few more people, at least your database does, than we do.
As I said earlier, we have 10 million names and addresses of just donors. So people will regularly ask me, do I know this gazillionaire or that gazillionaire? No, I said, I don't know the billionaires, but I know 10 million, 10, 25, 50, $100 donors there. And that's the lifeblood of anybody's organization is your customer base. And by the way, I'll get to your question in a minute, but I want to make sure I've mentioned something, John. The importance of understanding the lifetime value of your customer. I understood that early on from my study of business in the 60s, and it gave me a huge advantage over my competitors because I've focused on the lifetime value of a customer. So I could spend $1 on marketing and bring in 70, 80 cents because I knew that 20, 30 cent per dollar loss was going to be turned into 10, 20, $50 profit over the years. So you understand as a business person how much you can invest in marketing by understanding the lifetime value of your customer there. In terms of reaching me, feel free to contact me at my initials, RAV, company's initials, ATA, at AOL.com. So repeat, RAV, ATA, at AOL.com. And that AOL address tells you I've been around for a long time. And my son, it really bugs him and says, Dad, nobody uses that anymore. Well, I'm comfortable with it. I like something, I stay with it.
I do have a few good friends that still have that, are some of my most successful friends, Richard, so you're in good company here. But no, and so let me go to the next segment, which I think is really important for all of us, and it's the key takeaways. And I want to share, Richard, I've written down so many insights. Let me start. I'm going to start with your last one first, is know the lifetime value of the client relationship. This is something I didn't fully understand until about 10 years ago, and it's changed my life because with marketing, when we spend $1, most of us want to get $2 back right away. And that limits us. Well, if your competitors feel that way and you can do just what Richard said, you spend $1 and get 70 cents back immediately, you have an unfair competitive advantage. And that you can only do that if you know the long-term lifetime value of your clients. And this is something that, if you can understand your cost of acquisition and the value of the clients, you have really kind of almost a slot machine. You put $1 in, doesn't pay off immediately, but it might pay $17, as Richard was saying. So number one, understand that. Also, major mentors. Every major change in my life, kind of that acceleration that we talk about here at AE, Accelerating Entrepreneurial Success, AES Nation, has been a mentor. And reach out. They show up at different times in your life. Sometimes they stop by, as Richard said. More often than not, you have to seek them out. And it's going to change. You're not going to have one mentor during your lifetime. Real board of directors. Accountability. I don't know about you, but me, I would prefer no accountability. Well, I've been married for 35 years. I've had several businesses. I've done venture-backed and so on. I know that accountability does make a difference. Four horsemen, I think this is brilliant. Positioning. And I've never heard that before, Richard. I didn't catch that when you talked about it before. Positioning as kind of the private mindset of you're getting that space, differentiating, the public, how people perceive you, USB benefit. We got to have clarity on that. And then the brand is all about the buzz. And this is so important for all of us. Written plans, vision, goals, strategies, tactics are critical. And in approaching this each and every time, Richard, I want to thank you profusely for the difference you're making in the world, first of all, and for sharing your insights with our fellow entrepreneurs. And let everyone know that you can get everything Richard and I talked about, the transcription at aesnation.com. All the links to everything we talked about will be there. And above all, I know, Richard, you want them. I want them to go out and make a huge difference. Western civilization, their clients, their future clients, all their strategic partners are counting on them. Let's go out and make a big difference.
John, let me make one last important point.
Yes.
And that is, at age 82, I'm doing all the things that we've talked about. My good health is not an accident. I work at it. So I encourage all of our listeners to pay attention to your health, study, read health as well as business and marketing. It makes all the difference in the world. I spend a lot of time, as my wife does, studying health, and it's not an accident. We work at it. Eat your vegetables, your fruit, exercise, etc. So work at your health.
It's so funny. You mentioned earlier one of your mentors was Dan Sullivan, and Dan and I are in partnership on a couple of things. And Dan called me up and he said, John, and Dan's, I think he's 71, 72. And he goes, John, if we're going to be working together, you got to take better care of yourself, because I only do partnerships for 25 years. And it's just that long-term life. And, really, you're an inspiration, Richard, to all of us. So, you owe it to your clients, your future clients, your families to take care of yourself. Today, there's so much going on in the health side. We want to have the energy to really make a difference. So let's go make a difference. Wish you the best of success.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. aesnation.com